we're going to have Jennifer come and is going to talk about her mom. Sorry, it's right after the song that makes you cry. But then if you'd like to speak, you're welcome to do so.
Well, shit. Am I allowed to say that here? Rules don't apply, right? Yeah. Okay. I really can't believe this. I'm sure you're all feeling the same amount of disbelief. It happened so fast. This is hard to be up here, but at the same time, it's not. I want you all to know how deeply I love my mom. Plus, she'd be so pissed if I didn't get up here and speak about how wonderful she was. She loved being the center of attention. And it wasn't hard for her to be. It came naturally to her. You all know that. And when you told her that she was wonderful, or whenever I told her that she was a great mother, she'd simply respond with, "I know." People were drawn to her. Her insanely sharp wit, loud laugh, and warped sense of humor, as well as the tendency to break into song every chance she got. She was mesmerizing, captivating, magical, and also pretty critical. Nevertheless, she was the best person I've ever known. My Aunt Jenny, my mom's youngest sister, said it best the morning after my mom passed. She said, "It just feels like the spark in our family is gone, and now we're just a boring family." And she's right. I mean, no offense to my family, but my mom was funnier than all of you combined. You all already know that too, though. Also, just a quick PSA before I really dive into all of this. I do not apologize for all of the curse words that are about to happen. Sorry, any children that are here, but it wouldn't be honoring to my mother if I censored myself, since you all know she never censored herself. She was just so much fun. Even when she was pissed, moody, or sad, she'd find a way to say something hilarious. And she was never afraid to say exactly word for word what was on her mind. Forget sugarcoating, she didn't care. She had absolutely no filter. She was bold, loud, shocking. I think strangers who briefly came across my mom weren't really quite sure what to make of her. She was like a tornado coming through. Even when she was just in the hospital, dying, before things really took a turn, her nurses told me she was keeping them laughing and that she was a handful, but in the best way. And she truly was a handful, always, but you couldn't get enough of her. She kept you wanting to come back to grab even more handfuls. A story that comes to mind when it comes to illustrating how outspoken my mom was, she once ran into someone who made the mistake of asking her if she was pregnant, when she very much was not. My mom's response was, "Oh no, I'm not pregnant, I'm just fat." Probably making the person on the receiving end of that statement want to crawl into a hole and die. My mom made sure to remind me on more than one occasion over the years, never ask a woman if she's pregnant unless you can actually see the baby's head coming out of her. And even then, think twice about asking. She had a wide variety of one-liners, things she'd say all the time. For example, if someone said something like, "What about Eugene?" she'd respond with, "Don't call me Eugene." If someone said something that made her roll her eyes or that warranted teasing, she'd simply call them a loser. And whenever she called me, she started every voicemail with, "Jennifer, this is your mother speaking." She was always Also, always so hilarious and outspoken with the doctors and nurses who were taking care of her when she was going through cancer treatment. As most of you know, she was diagnosed with lung cancer in the spring of 2018, but had been in remission since about the end of 2018. When she was getting a second biopsy procedure in April of 2018, the male doctor who would be performing the biopsy walked into the room. My mom took one look at him and said, "You look like you're 12. Do you have a paper route on the side?" She was so incredibly funny. One time, as we were traveling together for one of my out-of-town softball tournaments, we were getting ready to go to bed in our hotel room, and my mom was gearing up in her arthritis splints, mouth guard, CPAP machine. She joked that she looked like a fighter pilot. She then said, "Boy, I'd be a lot for a man, don't you think? Can you imagine me 10 toes up like this?" She loved to have fun. She was the life of every party. She lit up just not the room she was in, but every room in the building. And you could also hear her from every other room in the building as well. She was loud. One time I asked her if she liked to play cards. Her response, "No, not really. I don't want to work that hard. I just want to sit and match wits and have clever conversation and laugh and laugh." She loved to celebrate everything. "Let's go out to dinner and celebrate," she'd always say. She rarely had enough funds to cover dinner, but that didn't stop her. In her mind, who cares about the money? It'd work itself out. Having fun was always more important. Besides, Juju will foot the bill. She just loved to spend money, again, even though she didn't have any. When she did have money, however, back in the day, when she worked for Pulte Realty in Illinois, for example, she gave. She loved giving gifts and helping people. She took her entire family to Disney World in 1989 on her dime. Within the last 6 months, she sent me something in the mail and wrote on a little note inside, "A card without money is like a day without sunshine." And along with the note was a crisp $20 bill. If she had money, you had money too. She played the lottery every week, twice a week. She said that as soon as she won the lottery, she wanted to take another trip to Disney World. She loved Disney. She and my dad went to Disney World on their honeymoon. I think at least once a month throughout her life, she'd say the phrase, "Let's go to Disney World." She loved to travel. Going on vacation was one of her favorite things. When she packed for trips, I really think she packed just about everything she owned. "A girl can never be too prepared," she'd say. And her purse is another story. Anything that a human being could ever possibly need, my mom carried it in her purse. After she died and we went through her purse, I think we found 10 flashlights in that sucker. What on earth does a woman need with 10 flashlights? She's gone through a few different purses throughout the years, but they all had one thing in common. They were huge. Even this past Friday, she told me to grab her lip stuff out of her purse for her. She berated me when I couldn't find it, saying, "Jennifer, it's right there in the side pocket." I said, "Mom, there are 75 pockets. This thing is a black hole." My mom used to be quite the holy roller way back in the day. That was a term she liked to use. She was Catholic. Catlickers is the term she used to refer to Catholics. She would force me to go to Mass with her every single Sunday at 11:15 a.m. throughout grade school and junior high. And every single Sunday, we were 15 minutes late. But every single Sunday, even though we were 15 minutes late, she marched us all the way up to the very front pew with her huge purse in tow. Years later, when I was talking to someone about how I used to go to church with my mom at St. Joan of Arc, the person responded, "Oh, so your mom was the one who brought her laptop bag to church." She loved to buy what she referred to as trashy magazines. She had a subscription to all the celebrity gossip magazines for many years. I loved reading those magazines with her and gossiping with her about celebrities' lives. When she would take me with her to the grocery store, we always went to Baker's. We used to first head to the bakery where she would buy me a donut. Then she would shop while I would take my donut and park myself in front of the magazines and read them until she was done shopping. Then Rather than walking over to the giant magazine rack to retrieve me, she would march up to the customer service counter and have an employee use the store intercom to page me to the front. One of her favorite baker's stories to tell was about her buddy Al, an employee of the store. She called him her boyfriend. She called everybody her boyfriend. One day, as soon as we walked into Baker's, Al, who was about 25 yards away, spotted us. "Gene," he yelled out to us over heads and heads of shoppers, "Miller Lite's on sale." She was mortified, but thanked him for the heads up. She sure loved her Miller Lite, although she didn't drink it as much in recent years. But every time we went out to eat, every time, I knew what was coming as the waiter approached the table and would ask us for our drink orders. "Honey," my mom would say, "I'll take a Miller Lite with a tall glass of ice. That's how we drank it in Nam." The waiter would usually look back at my mom with a blank stare, not understanding the joke, to which I would then pipe in and say, "Sorry, she's making a joke." She decorated the outside of our house at 3442 Westgate Road for every major holiday during my entire childhood, and when I say decorate, I mean decked out. Lights everywhere, figurines, music. The interior of our house often matched the outside, and she would also go all out for my birthday every year. She painted happy birthday signs and covered the whole living room with decorations. I'd wake up so excited. My birthday is on January 5th, which is obviously directly after a major holiday season involving lots of family get-togethers. When I got older, my mom told me about how exhausted my family members always looked at my childhood family birthday parties, trudging through the snow during another cold, gray Nebraska January just to come to my party. She also decorated our lawn by advertising for major events for our church and my school, St. Joan of Arc. She hand-painted big wooden signs until the wee hours of the morning and staked them in our yard, chaining them down so they wouldn't get stolen, and shine lights on them. Her dad, my papa, along with my mom's brother, would often help her install the signs and the lights. Most people in the area knew about the little white house on the corner of Westgate Road and Grover, and the lady who spent hours in her yard decorating, mowing, planting flowers. The yard was perfect, always. She was a highly curious, highly intelligent person. She asked tons of questions about people's lives. That's one thing she always got mad at me about. I'd tell her about meeting someone and she'd ask me a million questions. "What do they do for work?" I'd say, "I don't know." "Well, what school did they go to?" I'd say, "I don't know." After about 10 more questions, she'd finally say, "Are you sure you actually talked to this person?" Another way she liked to ask what someone did for work was by saying, "So where does he tend bar?" This is something that her father used to say. She loved her dad. He was her favorite person. And rightly so. My grandpa was equally hilarious. He was my mom's favorite person to laugh with. My mom definitely received a large dose of his Irish humor. My mom and my grandpa, along with the rest of our family, lived and breathed Husker football. "Pin your ears back, boys," she'd yell at the TV during Nebraska football games. I still have no idea what that means. The way she screamed at the TV often made the dogs jump and scatter. She was just such a fan. She cried after Husker losses and said she was going to sink into a deep depression for the rest of the afternoon, often retreating to her bed for a nap. Back to her intelligence, she spewed out facts like a textbook. She was the human form of Google. Ask her any question about history, and she could often give you exact dates and an entire summary about what happened. One of her favorite stories to tell was from when I was in middle school or high school, and she told me she was going to go down to my grandpa's house to drop off some of her Civil War tapes for him to watch. My response was, "Whoa, they had video during the Civil War?" She lost it. She thought it was so hilarious and told everybody she knew. One of her other favorite stories to tell was when I called her up when I was in high school while she was at work. I was home preparing some ramen noodles. She answered and I said, "Hi, Mom, how do you boil water?" She paused, then disappointedly said, "You're kidding, right?" She loved to poke fun at my blonde moments and always said to people, "You know, she really was better as a blonde." No offense to any blondes in the room. One of the best gifts I've received from my mother is the ability to laugh at myself. She was the best at laughing at herself, and it was so fun to laugh with her. She loved to read. She loved Eleanor Roosevelt. I framed her an Eleanor Roosevelt photo for Christmas this past year, which is on display this evening. Immediately after she opened it, she said, "Beautiful, you can have it when I'm dead." Which I know is rather depressing, but once again, sugarcoating was not her thing. She also used to often say, "Nenny, will you wipe my bottom for me when I'm older?" I would pretend to gag and say no, and she'd laugh and laugh. She also told me that she deserved the Cadillac of nursing homes someday, and that I'd better give it to her. Grammar, pronunciation, and capitalization were a big thing for her. She often scolded me for mumbling, saying, "Jennifer, enunciate." And she couldn't stand typos and grammatical errors in emails or text. Speaking of texting, if anyone was ever on their phone in front of her, she'd say, "I take it I'm boring you?" And then that question was soon followed by, "Put that goddamn phone away." One of the ways she illustrated the importance of grammar was by saying, "Grammar, pronunciation, and capitalization are the difference between helping your Uncle Jack off a horse and helping your Uncle Jack off a horse." She was a brilliant writer. Her emails were long but wildly entertaining. When I was in high school, she used to send me emails with a list of the chores that needed to be done upon her returning home from work. It was never just a list, though. It sounded more like a comedy bit, the way she described everything. I loved emailing back and forth with her. We used to email each other a lot when I was in college, and she was working at a desk job. I've been reading through those emails a lot in the past few days. I also used to email her my college papers to proofread, and she was happy to do it for me. There was not a better proofer on this earth than Jean Boley. She was so smart. She loved her siblings. My mom's connection to her sisters was incredibly unique and special, and she loved to laugh with her brother. We have such a close family. My mom lived with my Aunt Juju for the last 29 years. My mom and I moved in with Juge when we moved back to Omaha in 1992 when I was just 2 years old. I came home from my best friend Amy Hardigan's house one day in 1995, and my mom asked me how it was. It was good, except her aunt wasn't there. Living with my aunt was so normal to me. Juju and my mom fought like they were spouses, and my mom often joked that the neighbors and passersby, not knowing they were sisters, probably thought they were lesbians. So my mom would often try to plant a kiss on Juju when they were outside in the front yard, just to give everyone a show. Thank you, Juge, for the way that you loved and cared for my mom. You were absolutely her best friend, and she loved you with all her heart. Even when she was telling me she wanted to choke you. My mom was truly my biggest fan. I know people say that all the time, but I assure you there is not a bigger fan than Jean Boley. She said to me all the time, "Jennifer Boley, you are the most beautiful girl I have ever seen in my life." Or, "How did you get to be so beautiful?" One thing my mom and I really bonded over was our love for dogs. My mom told this next story so well. When I was 5, my mom took me to Bob's Pet Store in Rockbrook Village. just to look. We walked in and were enthralled with the Pekingese puppy. An employee of the store walked over to us and said, "Do you want to hold the puppy, little girl?" Of course, I said yes, and immediately after placing the puppy in my arms, the employee asked, "And what are you going to name the puppy?" Without hesitation, I said, "Woody." My mom was flabbergasted, but since we had already named him, we had to take him home. Juju was less than thrilled. She owned and lost Woody, Ginger, George, and Gracie over the years. The loss of Gracie was especially hard on her. In 2013, she brought a 4-month-old puppy home from the Nebraska Humane Society named Molly. My mom was convinced that Molly had been drugged at the Humane Society to fool innocent puppy shoppers into taking her home with them. We definitely were fooled. Molly is the biggest pain in the ass. I always say she's like a Sour Patch Kid. First she's sweet and super snuggly, and then she's sour, doing something like eating an entire candle or ripping my mom's library book to shreds. But my mom truly loved Molly, and I really do think Molly's spunk helped my mom through some tough times in the past few years. Our family is so grateful that my mother's cousin Mo has decided to take Molly. We are truly eternally grateful for that, Mo. You have no idea. And I'm sure my mom is so pleased about this. My entire life has been well documented by my mother. I have VHS tape after VHS tape of my life starting from the day I was born. When I was 10 and started playing competitive softball, she filmed every single game from start to finish. Everyone knew about the crazy lady who stood at the fence directly behind home plate with her little video camera rammed through a fence opening. She yelled loudly, unabashedly. She used the hours of footage she filmed to create highlight tapes for my team after each summer and high school softball season. At home, she would sit in the recliner with a beer, her sunflower seeds, and a notebook, analyzing every tape, writing down where the great plays were for the highlight tapes. She was so proud of everything I did. This past January, I opened my own counseling practice in Colorado, and she sent a beautiful bouquet of flowers to my office to congratulate me on this accomplishment. She loved flowers. I've gotten more flowers from my mother in my life than from anybody else. The card with the flowers she recently sent read, "Congratulations on hanging out your shingle, kid. It's a great day, and I am so very proud of you. I love you so." She called me Nenny, Nen, Jennifer At, and best of all, Jennifer Beehole. At one of her jobs, instead of signing an email with Jean Boley, she made a typo, a very rare occurrence for her, and mixed around the O and the H, writing Jean Beehole. She thought it was hysterical and loved to call me Jennifer Beehole after that. Her unique parenting style has probably shaped me in more ways than I realize. As it reads in the service pamphlet, she ruled with an iron fist. One thing she often said to me, even into my adult years, was, "Come here, you little shit." If I ever got in trouble at school, she 110% took my teacher's word over mine and made sure that I was punished accordingly. For as long as I can remember, when I was in conversation with someone and didn't hear them correctly, she would never let me respond with what or huh, but rather, "I beg your pardon," like I was a child being reared in the year 1895. My mom and I have always been incredibly close, and at the same time, we would have knockdown, drag-out fights that involved her chasing me around the house. My teenage years were rough. My aunts often say to me, "It's truly a wonder that you turned out so normal, kid." My mom could be terrifying, but she truly was a phenomenal mother. One of my mom's favorite things to do was watch the Investigation Discovery Channel. She also loved Dateline. She loved murder documentaries. I loved and hated watching these shows with her. Loved because I got to spend time with her, but also hated because, well, nightmares. I remember when I was 24 years old, I was living alone in an apartment in Omaha, and my mom and I had been texting back and forth one night. I decided I was going to go to bed and told her good night via text. Her text back to me read, "Watching Investigation Discovery, this episode's about a beautiful 24-year-old girl who was murdered in her apartment. Lock the doors. Good night, sweetie." Another thing she often said was, "Lock the door, it's a bad neighborhood." She was such a stickler about locking the door that she would often lock me or my aunts out of the house, even if we just briefly stepped outside. She was very cautious, and when I was young, she bought me a giant orange storm whistle. She made me wear it on my wrist when I went out riding alone on my bike or when I just wanted to play outside in the neighborhood. She said, "Make sure to blow this if you get kidnapped." She actually just mailed me a shiny new giant storm whistle about 4 months ago. "A girl can never be too cautious," she said. Things got tough for my mom, health-wise, in the past few years. As I mentioned earlier, she was diagnosed with lung cancer in March of 2018. She was really scared. With tears in her eyes, days after she got her cancer diagnosis, she told me she wasn't ready to leave me. I took her to every appointment, every chemo session, and of course she bitched about my driving on the way to every appointment, every chemo session. 25, she'd yell, reminding me of the speed limit. Then she beat cancer, and we found out she was in remission. I'm so proud of her for the way she fought during that time, and she kept her sense of humor through it all. My mom was devastated when I moved to Colorado 2 years ago. For a while, she called my boyfriend Ryan, who I moved to be closer to, Brian, or Richard, any other name but Ryan, to be playful and to show direct opposition to my decision. Just for the record, she loved Ryan, and I know she was deeply elated for me to have found a good man. But she also wanted me all to herself. It's always been about her, after all, as most of you know. But that's what made her so great. I just happened to be home shooting a wedding this past weekend, so I was here when all of this happened, which feels pretty remarkable. For those of you who don't know, my mom died rapidly from sepsis and a lot of other complications. It was so sudden and unexpected. I did get to see her on Friday, the day I got into town. She had just gotten admitted to the hospital when I landed in Omaha. I went up to see her, but not before she texted me 3 words: "Bring clean underwear." She often said that you could probably sail a boat with her underwear. She missed me terribly while I was in Colorado. "How could you do this to me?" she asked when I told her of my decision to move. "I devoted my entire life to you. How could you leave me?" I'm so sorry for the hurt that my decision to leave Omaha caused you, Mama. I really am. But the other day I realized, now you'll get to be with me always, every second of every day. You'll get to be with me in Colorado. You'll get to be with me forever. I lost my mom too young. She was supposed to have more time left. I should have gotten to laugh with her and also listen to her bitch about things for so many more years. I don't know how I'm going to get married without you. And I don't know how I'm going to have kids without you. Every time something funny happens, I'm going to want to call you before anyone else. I don't know how I'm going to do it. It feels like from now on, everything is going to be less funny, less exciting, less magical. I'm going to miss you so much. The day before my mom died, while she was hooked up to machines, intubated and sedated, and I was by her bedside holding her hand, I said, "Mama, I love you. Can you squeeze my hand if you love me too?" And she did. She squeezed my hand. Our thing is to say we love each other more. Dad, I do this with you too. And I really do mean it. But anyways, anytime my mom would say I love you, and I'd respond with, I love you more. And then years ago, when I was texting my mom and she said I love you, I meant to type back, I love you more, only instead of more, it autocorrected to moron. In all caps. We both thought it was hysterical, and from then on we just called each other morons, knowing what the other person was communicating. The nurses in the hospital probably thought it was quite insensitive that while my dying mother was hooked up to life support in the hospital, I was standing over her calling her a moron. One thing I always wanted to do was sit down and film a legacy video with my mom. I thought I had so much more time left to do that, to ask her all the questions about her life so that I'd never forget a thing. The way she told stories was captivating. She left you hanging on every word. She was so entertaining, and she was constantly teaching me something new. Her wealth of knowledge on tons of different topics was really remarkable. A lot of you have asked me what I need and what it is that you can do for me right now. And since I can't make that legacy film of my mother, what I'd love from you is for you to share as many stories as possible about my mom, either this evening while among all of us or in the future, and also for years to come. That's what I need. Whether it's via phone, text, or in person, whatever feels right to you. She has a lot of friends, so I know there are a lot of stories. And I know that we could be here for a bit. Bill told me we have the room for as long as we want. And with that being said, please don't feel that I will be offended if you have to get up and leave at any point during the rest of this evening. But please keep the stories coming. Let's have some laughs. Thank you. I love you all. And I love you more, Mama.